Across cultures and generations, people who have come close to dying describe remarkably similar experiences, leaving the body, moving towards light, and encountering a mysterious barrier. Are these experiences at the edge of death simply products of the brain under stress, or are they glimpses of a deeper reality? In this video, I ask what the barrier in the near-death experience means. I consider an interpretation based on the ideas of the philosopher Emanuel Swedenborg. For him, death is a transition from the physical world into a hidden dimension of what he called the spiritual world. I conclude by reflecting on why many experiencers choose to return, and what this may reveal about purpose, freedom, and human consciousness. A near-death experience, often referred to as an NDE, is a deeply affecting psychological event reported by some people who have come close to death or faced extreme physical danger, unconsciousness, or serious medical crisis. Those who describe such experiences often speak of vivid perceptions of another realm, another dimension of reality, followed by a sudden awareness of returning to the physical body. Now, research studies suggest that between 10 and 20% of people who survive a close brush with death, following, for example, a cardiac arrest, report some form of near-death experience. The proportion can vary depending on how soon people are interviewed afterwards and whether they feel able to speak openly about what may have been for them an intensely unusual and personal event. For many, the experience is unforgettable and difficult to express in ordinary language. People commonly insist that it bears little resemblance to dreams or hallucinations or fantasy, and they often describe it as having a profound and lasting effect upon their outlook on life. The content of near-death experiences varies widely. Some describe hearing music, others speak of fragrances, while some report encounters with deceased relatives or even beloved pets. No two accounts are identical, yet many follow a recognizable pattern. This pattern may include a sense of separation from the body, movement through darkness or a tunnel, encounter with light, or seeing other beings, an overwhelming feeling of peace, and a review of one's life. Now, from a scientific perspective, such experiences are often assumed to be the result of brain activity under conditions of extreme stress, perhaps involving reduced oxygen levels, altered temporal lobe function, or dissociative states. Yet, there are also spiritual interpretations, like those based on the writings of 18th century mystic Emanuel Swedenborg. There is the idea that what is perceived in these experiences is not merely a creation of the mind, but actually reflects a genuine, though non-material, a genuine dimension of existence, what Swedenborg described as the spiritual world. One particular striking feature reported in some near-death experiences is the appearance of a boundary or a barrier of some sort. This may, for example, take the form of a gate, and other symbolic barriers and boundaries may be encountered. Now, experiencers frequently say that crossing this threshold would mean they could not return to Earth. And a typical account might run as follows. I became aware of moving towards an intense light. I felt an extraordinary sense of peace. I sensed the presence of deceased relatives growing younger. Ahead of me was what seemed to be a boundary, and I somehow understood that if I crossed it, I would not be able to return. I felt torn between the incredible sense of peace I was experiencing and my thoughts of those I loved. Then, quite suddenly, I found myself back in the hospital. Now, researchers such as Raymond Moody have noted how widespread this idea of a threshold or point of no return appears to be across many accounts. Psychologists have often interpreted the barrier symbolically as an image representing transition, the boundary between different states of awareness. From a Swedenborgian perspective, however, the symbolism may also point to a real existence, a reality. He described human beings as existing simultaneously both within a physical world that we can see with our bodily senses, and a hidden spirit dimension which we don't so often see except in paranormal states. In his writings, death is portrayed not as an abrupt ending, but as a gradual loosening of the spirit of a person from our attachment to the body. He even claimed to have undergone experiencing this himself, describing a state in which bodily sensation faded, while awareness became increasingly conscious of another mode of reality. He wrote of a kind of drawing out of the deeper levels of my mind from my body, so he said, suggesting a transition from outward sensory awareness to inward spiritual perception. Seen in this light, the barrier reported in near-death experiences is a symbolic representation of the moment at which a person either returns to earthly life or passes into another state of being. Many people who report such experiences also describe a strong sense that they still had something left to do in life, children to raise, responsibilities to fulfill, or some unfinished business requiring their return. This connects closely with Swedenborg's emphasis on inner freedom and moral intention. Although outward circumstances often constrain us, he argued that human beings remain inwardly free in their deepest motives and choices. And according to this view, it is these freely chosen intentions that shape the true character of a person. For some experiencers, the moment at the barrier appears to involve precisely such a choice, whether to continue onwards into an unknown reality of tremendous peace, or to return to the life they had left behind, with all its troubles, controversies, difficulties. Now, in this situation, how would we each respond to such a challenge? In this talk, I've explored the phenomenon of near-death experiences, including common features such as out-of-body awareness, encounters with light, and the mysterious barrier or point of no return. I've mentioned both scientific and spiritual interpretations, including the ideas of Emanuel Swedenborg. He described death as a transition from the physical world into a hidden reality of immortality that he called the spiritual world. I conclude by reflecting I concluded by reflecting on why many experiencers choose to return, and what this may reveal about purpose, freedom, and human consciousness. Well, thanks for listening to me, and if you've been interested, why not give me a like and offer a comment? You probably realise it does encourage YouTube to show this video to a wider audience. If you are interested in another of my videos about the afterlife, called Will I Still Be Me in an Afterlife?, you can click the link right now.